Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and on the day of two massive games in football, Villa against Liverpool and Real Madrid against Man City, why are we doing a video? The problem with Gary Neville? Well, simply because tonight we will probably get biased commentary. And although it says Gary Neville in the title, I think it goes much bigger than this. So many examples to get into. Get your comments in as well. But for me, it sort of hit the iceberg at the weekend when I'm watching Manchester United play and the live chat. Fortunately, I don't have to listen to the commentary. The live chat's going mad about Gary Neville, talking about Amorim and his tactics and not talking about the bigger problems at Manchester United, like the Glazers and Ineos, maybe because he's conflicted, maybe because he's about to get into a big building project with Ineos and he can't call them out because he's working with them, in which case should he even be commentating on games? So I want to talk about that because what I found preposterous is when I did turn Sky Sports on for the post-match stuff, they spent about 5 minutes talking about protests for Spurs and why they are correct, but nothing about Manchester United. Are we being fed a propaganda by the mainstream? Well, it wouldn't be the first time. It happens in loads of other areas. But why is it acceptable? And why is it the standard of punditry is just getting worse and worse and worse? A few examples for you. Look at the game last week between Everton and Liverpool. At the end of the game, there's a lack of control from Liverpool. Van Dijk's trying to calm everybody down. Curtis Jones is pushing Decore. It's all kicking off. And I thought to myself, this was Arsenal. This would be reacted to very differently from certain ex-players on that Sky punditry team. But it doesn't get reacted like that because it's not Arsenal, and some of those players have a bias towards Arsenal. Maybe that's because they didn't like them as players. I don't know. Talking of Arsenal, you get Martin Keown talking about De Ligt after the Spurs games, and I quote this. He says, "Look at De Ligt. The amount of money they spent on him, by the way, is almost obscene for a centre-half. He's playing like a robot. There's times he can clear the ball and he puts it out for a corner." This is De Ligt, who most Man United fans would say has been one of our better signings and looks pretty decent. But Martin Keown says De Ligt is overpriced and it's obscene. We paid £38.5 million for a 25-year-old. That's obscene. We paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. Let me just run through some of the most expensive deals in Premier League history. Maguire, 80 million. Vardiel, 80 million. Virgil van Dijk, 75 million. Fofana, 80 million. So we're paying an obscene amount for De Ligt at 25 for 38.5 million, and he's actually been good. That is your mainstream punditry from yet another ex-player who is just very bitter towards Manchester United, who gets a platform to spew nonsense. But the issue is, you get the Arsenal bias, you get comments like that. Fans are educated. Fans are educated. When Gary Neville's talking about Amorim's tactics, what are the tactics you changed to, Gary? We're actually conceding less shots and have more possession this season than we did last season, and you want us to go back to that possession, that formation. And why are you not talking about the big elephant in the room? Ineos, the Glazers. Why aren't you doing that? And fans are screaming this at their TV, and they're screaming that at Martin Keown, and they're screaming it at other people as well. And I think this is the problem. We've jumped the shark. We've moved on. Like, fans are educated, interested, not only in their clubs, but in other clubs' interests as well. We want proper conversation. We don't want conflicts of interest. We don't want bias. And that is why, you look at different comments from different players, and it's almost like it isn't the ex-player's fault. It's the mainstream's fault. It's the producer's fault. I've been in the situations. I've been to Sky. I've been to TalkSport. I've seen what it's like. I've seen what it's like off camera. And it's like, can I get you a cake? Can I get anything else for you? How are you feeling today? How's the family? These ex-players walk in and they're treated like gods. They're not held accountable. And the issue with that is they don't have to think. They don't have to learn. They're handed stuff. They're told stuff. How are you doing today? They treat them like gods because as players, they probably were. But as pundits, their opinion is no better than John down the pub. In fact, it's worse because John down the pub probably watches more football and forms his own opinions and educates himself. Whereas these people we get wheeled out every bloody day expose themselves as buyers and not educated. I saw Paul Scholes yesterday talking about PSR and FFP, and he was like, I just don't understand why you can sell a young player for pure profit and that's a good thing to do. Well, it might be a bad idea, but it has actually been going on for years and years and years. And you've got Paul Scholes, who's not really understanding it. You've got Rio Ferdinand talking about Ineos, actually, to be fair, but then he hasn't done his homework either, because he says, from the outside, I look at it and go, could you do it a different way? Could they have gone to the Glazers and said, listen, can we cut some of the money you're taking out as management fees almost every year, which is in tens of 20s of millions of pounds every year that they take out? Sacrifice a little bit here and help the team out. What management fees are you talking about, Rio? It's debt interest we're paying every year. We can't not pay that. So what he's basically saying is, I think he's getting muddled because he's going, Ineos should say to the Glazers, stop taking tens of millions of pounds out of the club every year. They're not taking tens of millions of pounds of money out of the club. They've not done dividends for years. We're paying tens of millions of pounds on debt interest. We can't not pay that because we're paying interest on the debt that we have to pay. So again, it's this lack of education. And I just think football's moved on. And I think that, well, I'd be interested to read the comments because I just think there's so many people getting frustrated with it now. You know, you can have Robbie Savage talking about it, or Gary Neville, or Jamie Carragher, or Rio Ferdinand, or Graham Souness, or whatever. And it's like, I think 10, 20 years ago, this was fine because people didn't have the opportunity to go on social media and interact. But that interaction has boosted the level to a ridiculous level of conversation now. And you're still turning your telly on or listening to your radio and getting fed uneducated nonsense. And I actually feel sorry for the ex-players in a way because they walk in, their lives, a lot of these players are rich. A lot of these players want to play golf. They just want to turn up, get an easy gig. I mean, the amount of people who've said to me, producers and stuff, like, you get an ex-player in, they turn up late, you know, they're meant to have watched the games, they haven't, you have to feed them bits, and then they just wing it. And it becomes obvious that they're just winging it. And actually, the only time they light up is when they can talk about an agenda they've got, which is completely unbiased. Oh, let's talk about Arsenal because I don't like them. Yeah. Let's talk about Man United signing a player who's a waste of time that I've never even seen. And they get exposed for it. And I just think that I do feel sorry for them because they are ex-players. They can demand a fee, whatever. But these companies that employ them should be saying, hold on a minute, mate. Why won't you talk about this? Well, I don't want to talk about it. Well, if you don't want to talk about it, then we're not going to use you. Why have you said this about this when it's not true? Why are you so biased about this? Why didn't you know about this? But they won't do that because they come in and it's like this. So they're never going to get any better because they're being treated like gods. And then we suffer as a consumer because we're just frustrated by the low level of conversation that we actually get. And not only low level, what annoys me the most is the inaccuracy, the bias, the agenda, the stupid comments that you just go, oh God, look at this take from him or Tim Sherwood or whatever like that. And you go, oh my God, they're just so bad at what they're doing. I mean, look, I go back a few years. You got Jose Mourinho getting pillared by ex-Man United players for a year. He gets the sack, Ollie comes in, falls apart very quickly. Oh, no, I'm not going to say it. I think they even said it live on air. You're not going to catch me saying anything negative about Ollie because he's a mate. And you go, oh my God, you're actually being paid very good money to be a pundit and you're sat there going, I won't be a pundit. Did Carragher really criticise Gerrard the way he might have criticised other people? No, he didn't. And that's what I mean. It's like they are in a privileged position and they're ruling the roost. And this is why they're in this position now where it's just become so... It's so bad. It's so bad. And look, people would say, oh, I'd love to see you on having a chat with them. Well, that's never going to happen. They're not going to put themselves in that position. It's all geared up for them with this in their ear and this, that, and the other. But they could be so much better. And some of these people have massive platforms where they could make such a difference by calling out the Glazers or, actually being a little bit impartial. They'd actually get a lot more respect for it. But I think it's a problem. Do you think it's a problem? I don't think it's going to get any better, but it does need calling out because it's certainly not going to get called out on the platforms that they populate. It's just going to get worse. In fact, only this week in 24 hours, I had clips from Stephen Warnock, Michael Dawson, and Alan Smith, all talking about Amrim needs to change his tactics. And I'm like, so, who? Why? And what tactics are you talking about? It's just crap analysis. It's rubbish analysis. It's like saying Arteta needs to go in the summer if he doesn't win a trophy. Why? They finished second for 3 years in a row. They're one of the best teams in Europe. They just haven't quite got enough to win the league yet. Oh yeah, but if he doesn't win a trophy, he's got to go. Why? Because it just sounds like something I should say. Yeah, it's crap. Absolutely crap. Anyway, tonight you can tune in on That's Football for 2 great watch-alongs where hopefully the conversation will be a lot better than the one you're probably going to get on the TV. Thanks for watching. Get your comments in. I'll look forward to reading them.